Some of the most exciting words in sports. It's game week. That's right, everybody. High school football returns across Shelby County this Friday night. We've got 10 exciting matchups on tap for you. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Alec Etheridge, sports editor here at the Shelby County Reporter, and it's hard to believe that it's already that time, but I can't wait. I know you all can't wait. It's high school football season, and it's here. So we're going to have 10 exciting matchups to break down coming up this week, and we've got several rematches from last year. We've got a couple of rivalry matchups right off the bat. We've even got a Saturday night game for the Thompson Warriors as well. So there's going to be a lot of excitement. We're obviously broadcasting here at Chelsea High School. It's going to be our first game of the week for the 2019 football season. The Chelsea Hornets, they're going to host the Oak Mountain Eagles for the second year in a row. Last year, the Eagles win that game in a rout, but this year, I expect it to be a tough battle as Chelsea looks to come out for redemption. We'll talk a lot about that game, as well as the other 9 games that we have coming up on the opening week of high school football season. It's sure to be exciting. We'll give you everything you need to watch for coming up this Friday night and this Saturday night, what to expect in each matchup, and the keys for each team if they want to pull out a victory to open the season. But buckle up, everybody. It's going to be a fantastic season across the area. We have a lot of excitement ahead. We're going to be broadcasting live each Friday night with our pregame shows. We'll be back with our weekly recap videos and previewing the next week's game. So we're going to do all that again this season. And, of course, our SCR Stars of the Week, the Players of the Week from each game. We're going to break all that down starting next week to follow week 1 of action. But right now, let's dive in, break down what we have coming up in the first week of high school football. We're going to open up the show talking about our game of the week right here at Chelsea High School as the Hornets play host to the Oak Mountain Eagles, a game that took place last year at Herdmont Park. The Eagles went on to win that one 42-9 rather handily. But early in that game, the first quarter, it was a 0-0 tie at the end of one, and then Oak Mountain opened up 28 unanswered points in the second quarter. They pull away for that 42-9 victory. A big reason, Evan Smith, in his first start at the varsity level as a freshman, went on to score 4 touchdowns in that game, really broke onto the scene and had an incredible season for his freshman year last year, and it started off with that 42-9 victory. After that, though, the Eagles struggled. They go on an 8-game losing streak, don't win again until their final game. And Chelsea was in a similar situation. They also finished 2-8 last year, but it was head coach Dustin Goodwin's first year here at Chelsea High School, and he didn't come in until late in May last year. So it was a team and a coaching staff that was still trying to figure each other out, and that led to some inconsistency at times, especially early in the season. Goodwin's philosophy on offense, the guys had to try to buy into that, get a grasp of it, and it was a struggle early in the season, but they got better as the year went along, lost several close games, and then ended up winning 2 of their final 3. So both of these teams going to come into this game hoping they can get off on the right foot. They don't want to fall behind the 8 ball like they did last year, but with both winning late in the season last year, Oak Mountain winning their final game, bouncing back from that losing streak, and the Hornets winning 2 of their final 3, including a 2-game win streak before dropping their final game. They both want to carry that momentum over. Both teams, I think, are going to do much better than they did a year ago. So this game, it's going to be a battle to open up the season. You know they both want to start out with some momentum. But specifically at the quarterback position, Oak Mountain's going to bring back sophomore quarterback with Smith coming back. Obviously still young, but he's got a lot of talent for that position, knows what he's doing, knows how to run the offense, and he's getting better as a passer and has a 6'4", 200-pound Noah Young to throw to out wide. So that's going to be a connection that if you focus too much on this option attack in the run game with Oak Mountain, that's going to be a connection that can really kill a lot of defenses. Chelsea, on the other hand, has a 4-quarterback race going in to this first game. So far through fall practice, we've seen Caleb Moore get a lot of the first-team reps. He's the taller of the quarterbacks, standing around 6'5", but you've had 3 other guys that have really pushed behind him. Jordan Thomas, Nick Neves, and Brayson Edwards, all guys that are pushing him. And all, I wouldn't be shocked if they got a little bit of playing time, especially those first 3 guys to open up this first game of the season. So that quarterback battle, if they can find a quarterback, that's what this offense is keyed around. If they can find a quarterback to run it this year from the start of the season, this is a Chelsea team that could get better and better as the year goes along, and much better than last year if they have a quarterback ready to run things from the start. So that's going to be a big key to watch if you're a Chelsea Hornets fan. But either way, both of these offenses looking for a little bit of improvement. The defenses should be fundamentally sound yet again. They'll keep them in every game, but the offenses are going to have to make plays. That was the problem for both of these teams last year. They weren't able to make those offensive plays in the second half. If either of these teams is able to do that in this opener, they'll have a leg up, and it's going to be exciting to watch. But I expect a physical battle between these two teams, kind of like what we saw in the first quarter last year in that scoreless tie. I think that you're going to see that kind of battle on the defensive side with both of these teams out to prove a point early in the year. With Chelsea's quarterback struggles, still trying to figure out who that guy is going to be, that could keep them a little bit behind, but I do expect this to be a close game at least into the second half, and then we'll see who can make the plays to end it and win this first game of the week of the 2019 season. It's going to be a special timeout at Warrior Stadium this Saturday. That's right, the Thompson Warriors are going to open the 2019 season on Saturday as they host the inaugural Go Gold Bowl, and this is a doubleheader that's going to start around 3 o'clock in the afternoon and feature 4 teams, the second of which will be the Thompson-Davidson matchup, but it's all to benefit childhood cancer awareness and Children's of Alabama, as well as the Elaine Roberts Foundation. So it's going to be a special time at Thompson High School to kick off the 2019 season, and we also get to learn a lot of things about this new edition of the Thompson football team. It's a team last year obviously made it to the state championship. The year before made it to the semifinals, lost a heartbreaker to keep them from reaching the state championship. So the last 2 years, extremely talented. A lot of that was because of quarterback Talia Tungavaloa, who is now at Alabama, so they have to replace a guy that threw for more than 14,000 yards at the high school level and more than 7,000 in his last 2 years at Thompson. So that's going to be a big void to fill for this Thompson offense. But they have a lot of athletes that are more than capable, ready to step up and make plays on the offensive side of the ball going into this game. Sawyer Pate, he returns at quarterback, or will start at quarterback this year. His first season as a starter, but he's been there for a long time. He's a guy that's lived in Alabaster his whole life, and it's now his time. He's been groomed by Freeman, who is a quarterback coach, a air raid offensive attack. He's also been groomed by Tungavaloa over the past couple years, so he's more than ready to step in. He played at times last year in a couple of blowout games and also in the state championship game against the best team in the state in Central Phoenix City. So he's got some experience. In the spring game, threw for 333 yards, 5 touchdowns, found several receivers. So he's going to be fine. He'll fit into that offense. He's not Talia Tungavaloa, but he is a guy that's going to be able to run this offense better than most Thompson offenses in history. So he's going to step in and make a lot of plays, and it helps that he's got a ton of receiver talent to throw to and 3 running backs. While you do lose Shadrick Bird in the backfield, you are going to get a guy like Brandon Franklin in there as a sophomore who's really ready to handle the load right now and is a guy that's already getting Division I looks. And then you've got Jarrett Crockett and JoJo Gators as well that backed up Shad last year there at running back. So it's an offense that's still going to be talented, still going to put up a ton of points, but it all relies on the offensive line. That's what I'm going to be watching this coming Saturday when Thompson does take on Davidson. They should be a heavy favorite. Thompson won last year, finished 11-2 overall, went to the state championship, and despite the new faces, has plenty of talent back on both sides of the ball, a ton of Division I talent that will suit up for them to kick off the season, while Davidson's coming off a 6-5 season a year ago. So there's a lot that you need to see from Davidson to prove that they're going to be better than last year, while Thompson, they always are going to have the pieces right now, especially as long as head coach Mark Freeman is there. They'll have the pieces to step up. They have the guys ready to roll in and start a new season. So the offensive line, though, is going to be the key. If you're a Thompson fan, you want to watch that, see how they handle it. They lose 3 big-time offensive linemen. Seth McMillan was a guy that was solid there for the Warriors the last couple of years. And then you have 2 Division I guys in Amari Kite and Jamie Simmons. Amari's at Alabama now, and Jamie is at UAB. So those are 3 guys that are going to be tough to replace on the offensive side of the ball. And then you switch over to the defensive side, and it's completely new aside from Jeremiah Alexander. He's a talented linebacker and edge rusher, but he's only one guy, and he's still just a sophomore. While he is the number 9 overall recruit for the class of 2022, according to 247 Sports, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the defense fills in around him, because they lose just about everybody else that was on that defense as a big production type player. They're going to have a ton of Division I talent over on that side of the ball still, but there's going to be a lot of young and new faces stepping in that are going to have to prove some people that they can handle that role. It's a new team, and while we've seen success at Thompson the last couple of years, you're going to have some guys that really need to step up and show that they can continue to handle that pressure of leading Thompson to big-time wins. I do expect the Warriors to be a heavy favorite in this game, to be able to pick up that opening win, but if you're a fan going to the game, you definitely want to watch that offensive line and the defensive side of the ball. The Spain Park Jaguars are coming off their first losing season since 2011 and the first ever under head coach Sean Rainey, so they really want to start off with a bang this season. They'll have a great opportunity against Hillcrest-Tuscaloosa. Last year they started slow. They won this game 24-14, but the next 3 weeks they lose to Bessemer City in week 2, a 6A team, and then they lose to Vestavia Hills and Mountain Brook to kick off region play. All 3 of those losses early in the season were by 10 points or less, and so that was a heartbreaking start for them. They win those games, it could have been a much different season, but those 3 losses were part of a 6-game losing streak. The Jags did bounce back with 3 wins to end the season, and they hope that momentum will carry into this year, but we're going to have to see a new team to start out against Hillcrest-Tuscaloosa. There's going to be a lot of new faces on the field really across the board, and it starts with quarterback Harrison Barker stepping in. I expect him to be just fine. I expect him to handle the role with a relatively smooth transition, but the rest of the offense, they'll have some guys back at receiver in Jacob Jenkins and Cooper Kelly. The running backs are going to be smaller this year. The offensive line is going to be smaller. All those guys are going to be relatively inexperienced as well. So it's going to be a team. Last year in this game, they won with the power, ground and pound style offense that we've become accustomed to, and then playing solid and strong defense. Won that one 24-14 behind 172 rushing yards from Jalen Henderson and 4 touchdowns, and he ran the ball 30-plus times. So it was really a power run game. This year they're going to be a different football team with those smaller backs. They're going to be spreading things out a lot more this season. So it'll be interesting to see that transition early in the 2019 season. Game 1, they're going to have to make a bunch of different plays with those smaller guys and do some different things. So I'll be interested to see how they handle that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's a ton of new defensive players. They're all going to be veterans. While the depth is going to be young, the veterans should be able to step up. They know the system. They've waited their turn, and I expect them to step in and handle the role. Rainey always has good defenses at Spain Park. It's what they've become known for. So if they can handle the defensive side of the ball, keep them, give the offense a little bit of time to work into the season, I think that'll be key in this opener. But I do expect Spain Park to be able to handle things, and even if it is a 10-point game, they need to win this one, especially if it's close, to show that they can handle that close battle early in the season. But either way, this is important for them to start fast because those first 4 games are key for their entire season, and they need momentum heading into the next 3 games as they try to bounce back from that start last year. Last year's Pelham-Calera game was interesting to say the least. It was a game that Calera jumped out 21-7 in the opening quarter, but then the rest of the way, Pelham just turned a switch. They went on to outscore the Eagles 38-3, won that game 45-24. And the rest of the season, really, Pelham's offense was lights out except for one game against Homewood. They were able to play and keep up with every team that they competed against, and it could have been an even better season, but nonetheless, they had their best season under head coach Tom Causey, went on to finish the season 7-4 and lost a couple of games by just a few points. So it was a team that was right on the verge of really being second or first in their region. So this year they come in, they're going to be replacing a lot of talent. Calera, however, is going to be bringing back a lot of talent. With that said, the interesting thing to watch in this opener, one, will be to see how Pelham handles a lot of those new faces on both sides of the ball. But for Calera, they're going to have to show that they can handle the depth playing at the 6A level. They're going to have a lot of guys back. They're going to have a lot of seniors. It's a strong senior class, but a lot of them will be playing both offensively and defensively. So that's going to be key to watch in this game. Pelham's going to be bringing back a quarterback in Xavier Langford, who the last couple years has split time with Matthew Rye. He's been right on the verge of breaking through as the starter, but he's still gotten some valuable experience. You also bring back a running back in Dylan Peterson who can really carry the loads, a tall, powerful back. So that duo right there already puts Pelham's offense in good shape again this year. They're going to have some receivers step up, have to have an offensive line step up, and that's going to be the key for them. If they can do that, their offense will easily keep them in this game. But overall, the big question mark for them is going to be on the defensive side. The defense struggled at times last year, and that was with a lot of good players on that side of the ball. Now they lose a lot of good guys, especially in Brock Higdon and Ryan Jules. So the defense is going to be new, except for the secondary. They have a lot of good guys back in the secondary, but that front seven is going to have to show that they can put some pressure in the backfield, stop the run, and make their reads and their plays. For Calera, like I said, that depth is going to be the main thing to watch. And then you also have their top athlete in Quindarius Cruz, who's been one of the best receivers in the county over the last 2 years. He steps into the quarterback role now because the coaches want him to touch the ball on just about every play as the most talented athlete on that team. So you want to watch for their depth. You want to watch for their quarterback play. I do expect this to be a closer game. I do expect Calera to be much better than last year's 1-9 record. It's a team that's rejuvenated, has made a coaching change in the offseason with Trey Simpson, the defensive coordinator now stepping in. I expect that defense to really be sound this year as long as they stay fresh and healthy. You'll see that in this first game. I think they'll take advantage of Pelham's lack of experience on the offensive line, and that's going to make this game close. I do think Pelham has an advantage offensively because of the quarterback and the running back, but this is going to be a tight contest with both teams needing to show a lot of different things to prove that they're ready to handle the gauntlet of the 2019 football season. This opener for the Halina Huskies isn't going to make or break their season, but this is such a big opportunity for this team, a team that's coming in with a lot of hype, a lot of confidence after winning 4 of their final 6 games last year, returning just about everybody in their lineup, 27 seniors, second-year head coach, a guy that they really figured out last year midway through the season, went on to play really well over those final 6 games. So everything just adds up for Halina to be good this year. That being said, they have to actually prove that on the field. They have to produce offensively. Last year they averaged just 14.4 points per game. While they do return a lot of that offensive talent, it's a group that's going to have to prove that they can be better this year. They have the athletes to do it, but they have to step up and prove it, and this is the perfect game to really prove that you can do that. McAdory is a good team. They have a lot of athletes on that team. While they are breaking in a new head coach, I think that's something Halina can take advantage of. They're still going to be extremely talented. But what the Huskies have to do is show that improvement on the offensive side of the ball, because both of these offenses struggled last year. Despite McAdory going on to win this game by a final of 35-13 a year ago, the Huskies get it at home now. That was a close game last year up until midway through the third quarter. Halina was within a possession. They were tied 13-13 at one point. And were within a possession midway through the third quarter. McAdory just went on a stretch where they pulled away. So Halina was close in this game last year. They have everybody back. They should be just as good, if not better than McAdory this year, especially with that coaching change and now Halina having a coaching advantage in this matchup. But it's got to be proven on the field. Like I said, both of these defenses are good. The offenses are what struggled at times last year, so you really need to see that offensive production kind of take a step in the right direction. But McAdory's defense will be sound. It's going to be tough for Halina's offense right off the bat this year. McAdory last year gave up just 12 points per game, and while Halina gave up 23.8 points per game last year, it was a defense that really kept them in a lot and was on the field a lot because of the lack of offensive production. So both these defenses are going to come out sound. They return a lot of top playmakers, especially at Halina. There's a ton of guys back on that side of the ball. So I expect this to be a defensive battle early, and what we really need to see in the second half is Halina's offense step up and make plays, because while this isn't a region game, it can really build your confidence and give those guys some belief, and that's what they need. They have to believe that they can win these kind of games this year, especially going into a second week matchup with Hueytown, and then region play kicking off with a bang right after that. So they really need to get some confidence early in the season. They know they can win on the back half of the schedule because they did it last year and they have all their talent back. So really in the first half is where they have to prove their points that they can be a different team and the team that a lot of us think they can be, that can compete for a region championship there in Class 6A. So we'll need to see a lot from them off the bat. That being said, they don't have to win this game, but I just want to see the offense take a step in the right direction. I fully do believe that the Shelby County Wildcats are heading into the 2019 season expecting to end their 10-year playoff drought. The last year they made it there was 2009, and they've been close on several occasions over the last several years under head coach Heath Childers. And this is a team that has as good or better chance than any in those past few years. They return a lot offensively. The offensive line and defensive line are mostly back and return more depth than they have in a long time. But on the offensive side of the ball, you've got a returning quarterback. You've got a couple of great athletic running backs despite losing your top producer at that position. You also have your top receiver back. I think they're going to take advantage of him, Isaac Montgomery. So there's a lot expected from this offense, especially after scoring 40-plus points in their last 3 games last year and really midway through the season. Showing a lot of offensive production. But early in the season last year, they struggled, and it started with this game against Childersburg. Lost that one 13-0, only scored 12 combined points in their first 3 games before really starting to get their offense clicking. And I expect it was a Childersburg team that really struggled last year too. So I really do expect that that Shelby County is going to come out and try to prove that their offense can pick up where it left off last year. They need to get off to that fast start offensively to show that they are a team that can get into the playoffs. Lost 5 games by 13 points or less last year, and it was even closer than that in a lot of games. So it's a team that was on the verge last year. They return a lot of talent. This is a team that should be in the playoffs. If they've done what they need to do in the offseason and continued to improve, they carry that into this first game against Childersburg. There's no reason they shouldn't be off to a 1-0 start. This loss last year really hurt them early in the season confidence-wise. They went on to finish 3-7, missed the playoffs. I fully expect them to compete in this game. They competed in it last year, and the offense is just as good or better this year as it was in the second half last season. So I expect them to come out and put up a much better fight than a 13-0 final. I at least expect them to score some points even if they lose. They need to get off to that good offensive start while the defense has to step up and prove that it can play football as well, because the defense is what really struggled throughout the season last year, and especially in that secondary. They've got to prove that they can make plays back there if the front seven is beat. But overall, I think the entire team will be improved, and I think the offense is going to make enough plays to make this a team that really can compete for a playoff spot. We all know the talent that Montevallo is going to return this year. They return a 3,300-plus passing quarterback in Malik and Bennett. They return a 1,706-yard receiver in J.J. Evans, second all-time for single-season receiving yards in the state. They return a 1,000-plus-yard running back in Deion Gilliland, and they have several other playmakers on the offensive side of the ball that should step up and make this offense even more dynamic than the record-setting offense that was on the field a season ago. But last year they won a lot of close games. It could have been a much different season for Montevallo had they not played for 4 quarters and pulled out a lot of those games late. And it starts with this opening night game against Marbury. This was a game last year that was a 1-point game late. Montevallo made a play. Their defense stepped up first off and didn't allow any more points. But on offense, they made a play late with a 44-yard touchdown pass from Bennett to Evans, and that sealed the game for a 36-27 victory in that game last season. So making those plays late, that led to the theme throughout the season, and they were able to do that the rest of the way. The only game they lost was against American Christian, yet they still played 4 quarters in that game, almost came back and won that game in a game that featured 120-plus points. The offense has lit up the scoreboard in that one. So head coach Brandon Wilcox told me several times last year that was the key, was that team had to play for 4 quarters, and they have to do the same thing this year. They can't go into this season expecting that just because they have all that talent back, the wins are going to be handed to them and they're not going to have to make those plays. I do think they have the talent that should lend itself to help them be a better and improved team than last year's 9-2 team. But they lost in the first round of the playoffs. There's plenty to prove this year, and that talent has to step up and prove that they can make those plays late in ball games. This is a Marbury team that went 0-10 last year. That being said, they're a classification higher for Montevallo, team that's in 5A, while Montevallo 2 years ago was in the 3A classification. That was a theme last year. Montevallo's schedule featured a lot of those teams that were 2 classifications higher than them 2 seasons ago. So there's going to be a lot of tough challenges on the schedule for them this year, but they have the talent. If they can play for those 4 quarters and go out to prove a point, I think they'll be just fine. And against Marbury, the offense really needs to show how dynamic it can be, but I fully expect this team to be better and improved from last year's team on both sides of the ball, and it should be just as good, if not better, than a 9-1 season that it had a season ago. But they're going to have to pull those games out late in order to do so. The Vincent Yellow Jackets are a team that really need to step up, take a step in the right direction for the 2019 season, and this is a good game to try to do so. They're playing a team in White Plains that is 2 classifications higher than them in the 4A classification. Vincent resides in the 2A classification, so that's a drastic jump, especially when you're a small school that has pretty much everybody playing on both sides of the ball. So Vincent's going to have a chance to make some points, prove some things this season. They have a lot of good guys back, especially in the trenches on both the offensive and defensive line, and that's a key for any level of football. I think that's going to help this year's team be much more successful, but they do have a lot of new faces at other positions. The offense should be fairly stable, though. I am interested to see how Will Harris handles the quarterback position. There'll be a new guy stepping in there at quarterback. I do think he brings an athletic dimension that can really help this team. And then in the backfield, you have a couple of other talented running backs as well. So this is an offense that could be dynamic with one of the best offensive lines they've had in years there at Vincent. That can really make a difference for them throughout the season. The defensive line also going to be loaded. Most of those guys playing both ways, but a couple that are going to make a difference on just the defensive line as well. They have plenty of athletic playmakers that can step up defensively, but depth, injuries, health, that'll be a major concern for this team, with a lot of guys having to step in as starters on both sides of the ball. So we'll watch that throughout this game, see how they handle it. This, like I said, this is a White Plains team that's 2 classifications higher, but last year Vincent kept this game close for a long time. 1-possession game there in the second half in that third quarter, but then White Plains went on to score several points within a 5-minute span that really just kind of put it away and helped them pull off that victory by a final of 49-18. But that was a 1-possession game there in the third quarter. Vincent had its chances, but then like I said, that depth really became the issue the rest of the way. It was tough for those guys to stay fresh after playing both sides of the ball for the entire game, and White Plains made them pay. So they can show that in this opener, that they've taken that step. They have a lot of good guys back. I think the leadership's better on the team this year. I think that they have better team chemistry, and they're really buying in to second-year head coach Lucas Weatherford. So they can really prove that they've taken that turn for the better, and that they're on the rise with a big performance in this game. I don't know that winning is the key. I don't know that they have to win this game. I don't think they have to win this game, but at least showing those progressive steps that they can play for 4 quarters, and that depth and their health can hold up throughout a game. That's going to be what you want to watch for leading into the rest of the season for the Vincent Yellow Jackets. The final 2 games that we're going to talk about will come in the AISA and the ACSC as Cornerstone travels to take on Sparta in an AISA matchup, and Evangel travels to take on Pickens Academy to open up their 2019 season. Pickens Academy is also an AISA team, but Evangel resides in the 8-man ACSC, so they'll be jumping up to play an 11-man competitor to kick off the 2019 season. For Cornerstone, this is a game they should easily be able to win. Last year won this game 41-14, and it's a team that only won 2 games a season ago. So I expect Cornerstone not only to be better this year, but to really take a step in the right direction. They have a lot of depth. They have a ton of guys on this roster, and Sparta can't take that big of a leap. If Cornerstone is going to be better than they were last year, Sparta would have to overcome a ton in 1 year's time. I don't see that happening. So I do think Cornerstone has an edge in this game, especially after Sparta went 0-10 a season ago. But there are going to be some new faces on this squad for the Chargers, so they need to step up, show some things throughout the game, and really prove that they've turned the page from last year's 2-8 overall record, and that they're ready to take on a new challenge this season, a challenge in which they try to compete for a region championship and a strong playoff spot in the AISA. For the Evangel Lightning, it's a team obviously that's loaded.
They have their quarterback back in Tyler Henderson, running back in Noah Shears, and then Will Farrell, who can do just about anything. They also have some other key guys back on that offensive side of the ball. Some of those guys are going to be playing both ways over on the defensive side as well. But the defense is going to have to step up and make some plays, especially when they take on these 11-man teams in the AISA. This is a Pickens Academy team that only went 2-9 last year. Evangel obviously 8-3, won the ACSC state championship. So returning that talent, Evangel's used to competing against AISA 11-man teams. I expect them to be just fine in this opener. They should be able to pull off a victory, especially after Pickens only scored 14.4 points per game. Even if Evangel's defense does struggle, it's going to be tough to see Pickens' offense making enough plays. And they gave up 33.6 points per game on the defensive side of the ball last year, too. And Evangel's offense is going to be lights out this year again, and they scored 45.5 points per game last year. So the offense is going to be good. I do want to see a little bit of a jump forward from the defensive side of the ball overall, but when you're playing an 11-man competition and you're an 8-man team, there's going to be some points scored. That's just what it is. But this should be an exciting opener for both of those teams, Cornerstone and Evangel. I expect them both to get off to strong starts and gain some confidence moving forward as they look to really build off of last year, whether you're Cornerstone trying to take the next step forward or you're Evangel trying to repeat as ACSC state champions and continue to prove your winning ways. That's going to do it for our first show here from Chelsea High School. Hard to believe that the 2019 football season is already back. Time's flying, but these teams have been putting in so much hard work over the last few weeks of the summer and early in fall practice as well. They've been gearing up for this time, and now it's here, so we can't wait to see what each puts on the field this coming weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun to kick off the 2019 season. I expect a lot of teams to really compete, improve from last year, and compete for championships this year. So it's going to be a lot of excitement coming up. Watch out for those keys I told you about from each team that can really tell you a lot about what to expect moving forward and what they might need to improve on moving forward throughout the season as well. Next week, or really this Friday night, we're going to start with our live from show, our pregame show, live from here at Chelsea High School, and we'll do that each week throughout the season. I know last year we had some troubles on Facebook Live with people being able to hear me. If you're not able to hear me in the first video, I'm going to try some different things to make that work out again this year, because I know I really enjoy it and love bringing those live from shows to you, the fans as well. So we're gonna keep doing that, and then next week on Monday we'll be right back for our game from our next game of the week location, where we'll look back at this first week's action, look ahead to week 2, and we'll give you our first SCR Stars of the Week as well. So all that coming in the next week, really. So look forward for that. Also, our football magazine will be coming out in the next week as well. At those first home games, we'll be handing those football magazines out as well. I'll give you a sneak peek of those on the Facebook page so you know what to expect, but they look incredible. We did a redesign that I'm really excited about, and we highlight all the teams across Shelby County, so those magazines look fantastic once again, and we're excited to give you guys those heading into the new season. But for now, that's going to do it from here at Chelsea High School. I hope you guys are excited for this first week of football action. Can't wait to see what the season holds in store for everybody, but glad to have you guys on board, and we'll see you on Friday night.